Hey everyone, this is Phil
and Lilith
of the Capes and Lunatics podcast.
You're listening to Into the Night,
The Moon Knight podcast.
Yes, welcome back, loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 208, and we are back, baby. And you are with your High Priest of KHONSHU, Ray. Hello, everybody out there. And of course, to start off the week for you, we'll have an idle chat. And I am joined by a returning guest. I'll call Justin, I'll call you a co-host because I love it. Regular returning co-host, yes.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, thank you.
Or just co-host, yeah, basically. Justin the Owl Osgood. Justin, a big welcome back.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, and thank you always, loonies, for listening.
Justin, from the feedback I get, they very much enjoy what you bring, your dulcet tones. So, I
hope so. Yeah.
Always excited to have you back on. And loony listeners, this is the Idle Chat. Just anything and everything Moon Knight. And this week, Justin and I will be talking about Egyptian heroes and villains. So we know Moon Knight has the obvious ties to Egyptian mythology. Justin and I, and off the back of Justin's fantastic suggestion, we thought we'd expand that and try to identify, I guess, the other Egyptian-influenced heroes and villains out there. So this will be a fun little chat. Now, before we get into that, of course, I must thank the likes of Justin, our gracious patronies. So those listed as co-producers and executive producers on each and every one of our episodes, a huge thank you. Your support is just, can't thank you enough. So the likes of yourself, Justin, thank you so much. But also Daniel, Derek, Wayne, Jordan, Josh, James, Russell, and Anthony. Fantastic. Thank you, each and every one of you. And our sponsors as well, from Daniel, one of our patronies, Fringe Knight. It's an Indy original comic based on Erie, Pennsylvania's very own mysterious superhero. Fantastic writing, fantastic stuff from Daniel there. Also, Hello Headphones, empowering gamers to play at their best, and Dreamland Comics, the superhero superstore. So, Justin,
yes,
back in the KHONSHU lounge here as we
back
chat
in the saddle. Yeah.
Yes, on the saddle of a camel. Yeah, we're both on top of a camel.
Yes. The ship of the desert.
Can't get any more stereotypical than that. I don't know if that's terrible or not, but anyway. First off, Justin, how's your week been? Like, how things been? Good.
Oh, it's been good. Yeah, we've been doing the house hunting thing, which has been kind of mind racking.
Oh God,
it's truly insane because of the pandemic. Everyone is moving to this area, so literally houses are going within a day or two of being put on the market. It's pretty wild, but we're confident we'll find something that will KHONSHU will favor us with some luck here coming up soon, and we'll.
Well, I'm hoping you're leaving some offerings for KHONSHU to get him.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
To curry favor.
Oh yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, that's always part of it.
But it must be stressful though, right? I mean, geez.
It's a little stressful. We do have an apartment that we've found, which is nice. We do have a place that we're moving to, but it's just we would much rather have a house at this point.
Okay, yeah. Yeah,
it's just very slim pickings right now, but we just have to be patient. And eventually
for sure.
Something. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I guess that's it. And as long as you have something that's, livable and comfy to an extent. Then,
absolutely.
Yeah. I'm sure it will come. Justin, a few more offerings, a few more sacrifices. And I'm sure
yes, I might have to do some more. I might have to tear a few faces out. I was hoping I would get away without having to do that, but I think he's demanding it at this point. So
push comes to shove. So
far be it from me to refuse such a decree.
And have you been following anything on the social media on on Facebook, Twitter's anything to do with Moon Knight? Anything catch your eye?
A little bit. I've been trying to figure out who Ethan Hawke is playing in the show.
Yes.
That's kind of been my little side thing, and I probably shouldn't because I'd like to be surprised, but I've been following that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been dangling there, hasn't it? And actually, thank you so much, Justin, for that beautiful segue. The only bit of white noise that, I can really, I guess, offer of note is that, have you seen this, Justin? There was a video posted up on Twitter from a local in Budapest, and he had Ethan Hawke and Oscar Isaac training. Had you seen that?
Oh, no, I haven't seen that.
Oh, okay. Oh, very, very interesting. Well, that's why I actually thought that you were talking about speculation or spector-lation of Ethan Hawke, because...
No, I must have missed that. Oh.
Yeah, well, it was very... Like, when they say training together, it was pretty innocuous. It was basically, the guy, the video taker, was standing at the side of the street, at the road, and they must have been going on their morning jog, but it's clearly Oscar and Ethan Hawke, and Ethan's talking to Oscar, just, I can't remember what he was saying, but they're just kind of slowly jogging past, so it looks like an early morning jog. The thing there, though, Justin, was that Ethan Hawke was clean-shaven now. So, yeah, he still had a ponytail, so he still had longish hair, but he no longer had that beard, which everyone was spector-lating, had ties with the Sun King. Now, I don't know, Justin, from these measly pickings, what would you make? What do you make of that then? Like, what does that mean?
I don't know. I've been praying all along that it's not the Sun King. I'm just, please don't let it be the Sun King at this point.
Is that only because, sorry, Justin, is that only because he's quite new, or?
New, and I wasn't a fan of the character or that run, personally. I didn't think it was Moon Knight at his best, and I don't think that that's a good way to lead into this, to start out the series, is with a brand new story that is of that caliber. I think that if they should draw from anything, it should be either the Benson, Houston, or Ellis runs for the
absolutely,
the launch. I was kind of hoping, to be honest with you, as some type of a mercenary character, maybe not Bushman, but somebody that is tied with his mercenary past or something. Okay. And I thought too, what if he's playing Frenchy? I mean, all this time we could be thinking, who's Ethan Hawke playing? And the most obvious thing it could be staring us right in the face. It could be Frenchy.
How would you feel about that? Would be a twist, because if he is indeed a villain, having Frenchy go up against Mark.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Having looked at, many thoughts go screaming through my head with a now clean-shaven Ethan Hawke, and the immediate thing that I go towards is, okay, so he's disheveled first, and now he's kind of clean cut. He could be Black Spectre. I mean, you could say that, because he was down on his luck. Then he kind of turns himself around, becomes a politician of sorts. There could be Jack Russell still. It could be, Ethan Hawke as someone that's only just finding out about his werewolf powers, and that's why he was all hairy, and then now he's kind of a bit clean shaven. It could also have been who was I thinking of? Randall Spector as well. Because if we're to take the leanings from the Mark Spector Moon Knight retconning of Randall, Randall actually follows Mark into that temple when Mark is left for dead. And he's been left for dead as well, and he kind of just misses out on the KHONSHU power. So, I mean, that would explain, again, why he may have been a bit disheveled, enters back into society, but then he cleans himself up. I don't know. It's open to anything still, isn't it?
Yeah. I thought about Randall, too. I thought that could be it. Because for a while, I thought Randall was a soldier of fortune also. I thought that he followed in the footsteps of Mark that way also. So that, I thought that too, but I would love it if it was Jack Russell. I mean, I think a Werewolf by Night in a TV series would be fantastic, and what a great way to launch the Moon Knight too. Oh,
fantastic! Exactly, and as well, there's all this talk. I mean, again, nothing's confirmed about it being Moon Knight being intrinsically tied to Blade. So again, you'd have that supernatural connection. So yeah, certainly possible. I guess we'll just have to really wait and see. But it's fun to see these little things. Look, again, similar to you, Justin, about not being spoiled. I don't want to see too much of it, but at least it gets the tongues wagging within the ITK community.
It keeps the interest, absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, Loonies, we are going to go into our idle chat now. And Justin, as mentioned at the top, Egyptian heroes and villains. Now, I thought it would be good to kick off with just establishing the Egyptian characters in and around the Moon Knight corner of the universe. So, of course, listeners, this is obvious. Moon Knight's connection with Egyptian Egyptology comes through KHONSHU. KHONSHU being like a deity to do with the moon, of course. The other ones of note that I've got here, Justin, that have popped up in the runs, whether they be the old or the newer runs, Anubis. So Anubis is there as well. Set, and in the Lemire run and Smallwood run, we have Amit.
Yes.
And finally Sobek, which was the god of the crocodiles as well. And lastly, I've got all the way back in Mark Spector Moon Knight, in the Blood Brothers run, we were just talking about with Randall Spector, that had the Punisher.
Right, yes.
Yeah, there was Nephthys.
Nephthys.
Now, I don't know whether she was... I don't think she was the actual goddess. She was, just some crazy person.
Yeah.
But yeah, tied to that. Are there
kind
anything...
of like a female Charles Manson.
Yeah, exactly. With wearing almost nothing as well. Like
right, yeah.
Certainly one of the time, the 90s, and she went a little bit too far there with her recreation of Egyptian wearables. But Justin, are there any other... I mean, I was thinking of the Fist of Khonshu, but I can't really remember the high priests there. Were they tied to...
From that story, I don't really remember.
No, there might have been
the other priests that... Yeah, I don't think there were any specific named characters in amongst that cult other than Nephthys and maybe a couple of people directly under her.
Right. Yeah.
But as far as I know, they haven't appeared beyond that story, have they?
No. Or you mean, sorry, Nephthys?
Nephthys and that cult, yeah.
And the cult, no. I think they died. From memory, I think she died. I can't remember. But, she certainly was their head. I know that she actually, it was great. I mean, I think it was synergy between Terry Kavanagh and Howard Mackie, who we know are good friends. And Terry Kavanagh, I think, and maybe Howard Mackie did a story back in Marvel Comics Presents, because we know Kavanagh had a long tenure there. He had over 100 comics. And that was that started with Havoc. Havoc, and I believe it was Wolverine. They bumped into someone called Plasma, and she turned up again, thanks to Howard Mackie, in Mark Spector Moon Knight 25.
25 with Ghost Rider,
with Ghost Rider, yeah. So her and her... Is it Cults of the Moon? Knights of the Moon? I can't remember what they're called.
I think it was the Knights of the Moon.
Knights of the Moon, that makes sense. They
Had
a pretty cool, I think, costume. Like, as minions go, that looked pretty good.
Yeah, I remember liking that one too, yeah. It was a good issue.
So that continued on, and then the Blood Brothers, Nephthys, she was the actual big bad, so Plasma worked for her. They're both the same goal, basically to take over the world, take over, I don't know, these mad people, don't know what they do. But yeah, I think that's the last we see of them there, Justin. So we did get a bit of a smattering of at least representation of the deities and the gods in the Moon Knight universe. We also get Set. I just want to mention as well, I know, Justin, you and I are big Thor fans.
Yes, definitely,
The War of the Pantheons, there's that god with Seth, I think it's with that H. Yeah, yes. He actually he takes on the gods and stuff. That was a great battle. So he's actually represented not only there, but also in Atlantis Attacks, I believe.
Well, I believe those are two different things, because the Seth from the Egyptian pantheon, I think is different from the giant snake. The giant snake's Set was from one of the primal evils from the beginning of the dawn of time or something, the
Right.
beginning of Earth or something. Yeah.
Okay, so a bit more broader. I mean, we know in Egyptian mythology though, I think it is either Set or Seth. I'm not too sure.
Well,
Like
I think
name.
they did worship Set in
Yeah,
some of the stories. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
There were those snake cults and everything.
I always thought Seth was like meant to be Set, but he obviously isn't. He's not the god of chaos, right? But he was a pretty powerful dude.
Definitely, yeah. And I believe that he was the god of death in the Marvel pantheon.
Okay.
I think.
Okay, so he took over from oh my gosh, I'm blanking here. Who would be the god of the dead?
I think Anubis was
Anubis. Yes, yeah.
I think. Yeah.
So okay, so a little bit of.
I might be wrong about that, but I seem to remember there was this big thing with Seth and death.
Rhyming.
And it's going back to that Thor story, with the War of the Pantheons. I just remember a lot to do with death and Seth being directly involved with it. Yeah.
Right. Yes. I'm just having a quick look here. I've just pulled out my old edition of the Marvel Handbook. So now I'm pretty sure I saw Set in there. He wouldn't be in the Book of the Dead though, would he? No. Anyway, this is all off the cuff, so I don't want to keep the listeners hanging. Just quickly have a little glance. No. I'm pretty sure I had his profile, but anyway.
It's kind of confusing because in that Thor story, in issue number 400, I believe it was, he does turn into a giant snake.
Oh, okay.
And I remember for a while I was confused. I was thinking, is Seth the same thing? Are they?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I don't see any correlation between the Set in Atlantis attacks with the Seth, but I think there's just creative license there from Marvel, maybe deciding to use bits and pieces here and there. But apart from that, then Justin, I found a little bit of a treasure trove here of Egyptian Marvel characters. Now, of course, this goes beyond just heroes. We're looking at villains, just any characters. Yeah, actually, I'll skip down the prompt sheet, Justin, because we did talk about this first, and we were thinking, just off the top of our head, who would the Egyptian characters and heroes be in the Marvel universe? And you hit it right on the head by saying Earth Force, which, again, was something that we saw from the Thor run.
Right. Yeah, these were all people that had been touched by death in some form or fashion, and Seth had offered them powers.
And they're really good. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. I say 3 actually. There's
3. There were a trio.
Yeah. So we have Skyhawk, and his real persona was Winston Manchester, and he was a businessman in New York, of all things. And he was given the magical powers by Seth, as you mentioned, Justin. He had super strength and the power of flight by using his powerful underarm to ribcage wings. So, a pretty funky design. Did you like Skyhawk? Skyhawk's got a good name as well.
I like the name a lot. Yeah, I thought it was a cool character. I thought it was kind of funny that Winston Manchester was a businessman that just kind of collapsed. He was in the hospital, he probably worked himself to death or something. But,
but it's so funny to pick that because he would have no hand-to-hand combat or no inclination for I don't know, unless he was a in Fight Club or something.
Maybe he had a darker side.
Maybe he had a darker side. Yeah. Just on the CV, it was just like businessman. But we know he probably could be a UFC fighter.
Maybe that was why he collapsed. He had a bunch of internal injuries.
Exactly. Oh, grisly stuff. But yeah, he was pretty cool. He seemed to be, I don't know, would you say, to me, he seemed to be kind of like the leader. I always saw him as like the leader of the 3.
Yeah, it seemed like he was the more logical minded of the 3 of them. The more more of the tactician,
Maybe that's why he's a businessman, the strategies and stuff.
He's got the strategic mind,
Yeah. Who else have we got here, Justin?
we've got Earth Lord, who was Kyle Brock, and he was a police officer who was shot and hospitalized. His magical powers were he could draw strength and mass from the ground to become a giant with superhuman physical attributes, and could return to his normal size at will. And his costume is made from enchanted metal and fabric that grow and shrink as he changes size, which is always convenient to have.
It is. I mean, we don't want to be caught.
No, yeah.
A la the Incredible Hulk. So, yeah, this was... Yeah. I don't know about you, Justin. Earthlord for me was my favourite. I'm a sucker for... the likes of Giant Man and Goliath, where you can actually change size, and this idea of becoming stronger, the bigger you get and stuff. I don't know. I found him good. He seemed like the bruiser of the trio.
Definitely. And then I think in the Comic Vine article about the character, it said that he could get class 100 strength at his most greatest. So he's one of the heaviest hitters there is if you can do class 100. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And he had that almost like a Juggernaut style headgear. Just kind of that rounded helmet, which again is also synonymous with, I guess, stylings of maybe ancient Egypt. I got that sense. We know KHONSHU's got a bit of that bob as well. So.
Right.
The statue of KHONSHU. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and finally, we got this Wind Warrior. She's pretty cool as well. And again,
I think she was my favorite. I liked her powers. Yeah. I liked the whole wind thing. I thought that was unique and interesting. Yeah.
Well, quite powerful, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
And again, very interesting backgrounds here. So her name was Pamela Shaw, and she was a housewife. And she attempted suicide after her baby had died, and so she was hospitalized for that. So a bit of a grim, dark past there.
Yeah.
Incidentally, as well, I'll finish this now. Pamela Shaw's powers magically endowed again, and she had the ability to transform her body to become winds and whirlwinds, with power ranging up to tornado speed. She also had the ability to glide on the winds. So again, quite powerful. Arguably, probably the most powerful of the group.
Possibly, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I would say Earthlord might be the most powerful, but.
Yeah, with the class 100, yeah.
Put her on a second tier there, because, I liked her. I thought she was interesting, and her costume was cool too, with the white and the gold motif. Yeah. Yeah,
it's a shame that we don't see more of them. Look, anything that happened with modern day writers, they could pluck them back. But Earth Force, I think, was really cool, and the idea apart from getting their stuff from Seth and having those kind of the look of Egyptian ties, kind of quite bare look of Egyptian ties. They weren't really Egyptian. You know what I mean? They weren't.
They were because all white people in New York. Yeah,
in New York, yeah. Exactly. So they very much acted like that as well. Incidentally, Justin, I just wanted to say, because we're talking about Pamela Shaw and her attempted suicide, I've been reading again Lost in Time Space, the West Coast Avengers, because I know you're a big fan as well. And it still just floors me how openly Hank Pym is like going, right, now I've just got to kill myself.
Yes, that was some heavy stuff.
That was very heavy stuff from Englehart. I'm thinking, geez. And there was these silent panels of him just thinking about it and then slowly putting the gun to his head. I'm going, oh my God, will this get past the censors today? It's
actually, you got a point there. Yeah,
that's pretty heavy.
Well, we saw what happened with the backlash against when Kraven the Hunter in the Kraven's Last Hunt storyline, when that happened. I remember that was a huge controversy.
What was the backlash about?
I remember reading a bunch of letters after Kraven the Hunter committed suicide. Just all of these outraged parents about.
True. Far out.
Yeah, just how they would never allow their kids to read Spider-Man suicide dinners. Yeah, I remember reading a lot of that crap, and you didn't even read the rest of the story. You're just looking at that one panel,
exactly,
judging it on those merits. But that scene with Hank Pym was so powerful. And
oh gosh, yeah. I mean, thank God, Firebird was there bonita. But
I
there was.
wonder whatever happened to her. Jeez,
I know.
yeah.
Yeah,
She saved Hank Pym's life.
She did.
She faded into obscurity.
and also as well, she was responsible for transforming Hank into, because there was rereading it again now. You can see this build up of like, because he had tried to be so many superhero identities, and she's the one saying, "Look, you don't have to be like all the other superheroes. You can be." And I remember Hank saying, "What, you want me to be Super Lab Man or something, something like that?" And and I think he ends up being, I think, one of the most interesting iterations of himself. Just that plainclothes Hank Pym, you know, with the tech and the inventions. Yeah,
with the big red jumpsuit that he had a million pockets. Yeah, that was definitely, I think, the best version of Hank Pym that we've seen in the last 30 some odd years. Yeah,
I mean, a very interesting character. I mean, the way he was like, pushed and pulled
he went through quite a journey. In that story.
He did.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Great stuff.
Anyway, moving just back to the Egyptian characters. Sorry about that.
That's fine. Yeah, no, that was I hadn't thought about that story in a while.
It just hit me because I was just reading it last night. That's all. So Egyptian Marvel characters as well. So there's actually a huge list here, and this is thanks to Comic Vine. So we'll just go through this quickly, Justin, I guess. How about we do every 5 each, yeah? Just to
sure, yeah, definitely.
So, do you want to kick off?
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
So the first one we have is Apocalypse.
Absolutely, of course.
The great X-Men nemesis.
Do you think of him? He's probably the first one I think of whenever I think of Egyptian characters. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, I think so too. For Marvel, definitely.
Yep. Yeah. So so I mean, little explanation there. We know Apocalypse. You know, he's just a big dude.
And it was amusing too to look at the Marvel wiki at all the Egyptian characters, and there are all of these parallel universe versions of Apocalypse. So there was like a list of 50, I think.
Wow, jeez. But the 616 version though, I think is just interesting enough. It's a very, again, massively powerful, one of the first mutants, if not the first one.
I think he is the first. Yeah. And such a great villain. I think he's my favorite X-Men villain. Him and Sinister are right up there.
Yeah, Sinister. I like the aesthetic of Sinister, but I never really sold on a lot of his stories. I'd say definitely Apocalypse is up there. But I don't know. It's Cameron Hodge as well. I remember loving Extinction Agenda. So.
Oh yeah, he's a great villain too.
He's scary. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And then after Apocalypse, we have Storm, another, of course, ex-legend who was born in Cairo.
She was born in Cairo, wasn't she? Yeah, I think a lot of people gloss over that, and I, you know, looking at putting this list together from Comic Vine, I was like, huh? Oh yeah, she is. So yeah, she's a big one actually. She's probably the most well known, I guess. Then out of this list,
I think so. Yeah, the most popular. Yeah. I only remembered that she was Egyptian from that fantastic X-Men issue where Charles Xavier meets the Shadow King for the first time. And there's a very brief scene where there's this little pickpocket that tries to pick his pocket. This is back when he could walk. And it was a very young Storm that tried to pick his pocket. I remembered that.
Yes.
Yeah, because
that
you
was
could
a bit
still tell it was Storm. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bit earlier on, wasn't it? Because as similar, I've read Storm a lot before this issue, but the issue I was talking about was I'm referring to now is the first appearance of Gambit. You know how they go through?
Yes.
Yeah, they go through the Siege Perilous. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And
really
and she ends up becoming a street urchin again, and so she's in and around Cairo, pickpocketing exactly as you're saying, and she bumps into Gambit, and the rest is history. But
I love that story too. That was a good one.
Yeah.
And then we have, of course, the Shadow King, who is, I think, a fantastic villain.
He is actually. I find him actually quite menacing as well. I think he's quite scary, just because he's got that kind of untouchable nature. It seems to be in the heads and stuff. It's very,
and you get the feeling that you can never really vanquish him. You know,
Yes.
a lot of people have tried, but he always seems to kind of like a shadow stick around, you know, in dark corners and strike when nobody expects it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
Great villain.
what do you call it? It's yeah, he's not like kind of just like right in your face. It's very deceiving, and yeah, that was what makes him the most dangerous, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And a villain with that much telepathic power too, that could rival Charles Xavier, is always very scary.
Yeah.
After him, we have another great villain, the Living Monolith.
Now, I've heard of him a lot. I'm not familiar with him, Justin. Have you come across him in stories?
Yes, actually, he was in I think it was a 2-issue Marvel team-up. And the first issue was Spider-Man and Havoc teaming up.
Okay.
And they were basically fighting a cult that the Living Monolith had kind of raised around himself. Mm-hmm. And then at the conclusion of that issue, he had become this massive colossus, this huge giant.
Oh, wow.
And in the next issue, Thor was brought in to deal with him.
Oh, nice.
So that was a really good one. If you ever get the chance to read that Marvel team up, it's a great little 2-part story.
I'll check it out in Marvel Unlimited, hopefully.
Yeah, that's a good Claremont and Byrne classic.
Cool.
And he also appeared a few more times after that in various stories. He popped up here and there. Yeah.
I mean, he's listed, he's ranked, not that this has any bearing, but I think he's ranked up high when it comes to, like, you pose a question to someone who's an Egyptian character in the Marvel Universe. He always seems to turn up, so he must have had some sort of impact, although he hasn't been seen recently.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it in quite a while. Yeah, his powers were very similar to Havoc's in that he could absorb energy and then redirect it.
Cool.
Yeah. And then the 5th is our boy Seth that we were just speaking about.
Yeah. Now the image that we have here on the prompt sheet, it kind of contradicts the Seth I have in my head, and I know that you have in your head as well, Justin, because he had no hand, right, in the again in that Thor arc.
Right.
A lot more of a this image looks very Egyptian, but he had a very Egyptian look as well. Mm-hmm. Had a helmet from memory, green basically, and a brown helmet. So Seth, as we mentioned before, had ties with that kind of power hungry, all that sort of jazz.
Yeah, very serpentine image. I would liken this image more to Anubis, this one from Comic Vine, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other Seth had more of a serpentine motif.
Yes. Yeah, very much. Yeah, which I kind of, because Set is the god of chaos, right? Yeah, he's in Greek mythology. And sometimes it's funny because I think I was doing a little bit of reading because of the serial. Apep is actually, or Apep is actually the serpent of chaos. So I think generally they might meld Set and Apep together, and that's why Set's kind of seen as serpentine, because Set's definitely the god of chaos and the god of death and stuff as well. So they had a few overlapping gods doing things, I think. Yeah. Hence, we're talking about an Anubis, and I know Set had something to do with death as well.
Yeah.
So, okay, we got a few. The next 5, Justin, I'm just going to go through them. I'm not familiar. They get quite obscure.
They do, yes, yeah.
So the next one, Ozymandias, which I know more from Watchmen.
Right, yeah.
But apparently there is a version in the Marvel Universe. Are you familiar with this gentleman?
No, I've never heard of this version. No.
Yeah, I haven't either. He looks metallic. Let me see. He's a slave of Apocalypse, apparently. And he serves mostly as a scribe. So I'm not going to go into, I can put all these in the show notes. It's there's a whole history to a lot of these characters. And depending on how fast my internet speed, there we go. So he's a servant. He's immortal. There you go. Possesses a granite body, precog as well, and he can animate stone. So
interesting.
Well done, Aussie Man Dice. The next sounds pretty good. I mean, geez, bring you back. The next one is Sphinx. He looks very different.
Yeah, the Sphinx is a great villain, actually.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, I know the Sphinx from the original Nova.
Beautiful.
From the 70s. That he was the first Nova's big nemesis.
Okay.
And his deal was he was the sorcerer, I think, for Ramesses
Right.
the second during all of that, and he became immortal, and of course had great aspirations for world domination and stuff. My favorite Sphinx story was actually in the New Warriors.
The Mark Bagley Nicieza?
Yeah, yeah. In the very
okay.
first run, there was a fantastic 3-part story, I think it was, in which the Sphinx returned, although it was a female version. And basically, it was kind of like a Days of Future Past amalgamation, where everything was rewritten to make it like ancient Egypt. And all of the heroes, like Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, they all were Egyptian. All of their armor and weapons and costumes had Egyptian motifs, and it was a great story. It was
awesome.
A fantastic story. Yeah, I'd recommend that to anybody.
Right. Well, it seems like, again, I'm looking at Comic Vine. the Sphinx appears in 98 issues, so quite a lot of them, created by Marv Wolfman and Sal Buscema. And he seems like a big hitter. So he actually also appeared in the War of the Kings as well, which I have not read, but again, I guess the ties with the cosmic there. Has berserker strength, blast power, there you go, flight. He's immortal. He's also intelligent, apparently, invulnerable, and magic. He's got magic, reality manipulation. Oh my gosh, he's got it all. Time manipulation. What can't this guy do? So yeah, Sphinx is pretty big, a big hitter. I'm gonna have to check those out, Justin, because that's very interesting.
I'd definitely recommend the New Warriors issues, and if you get a chance to check out any of that or that early Nova stuff, that's very good stuff too. Yeah,
I should crack open my old New Warrior, because I did collect most of them, so I can't remember the Sphinx in it, but it's been such a long time, so it could well be. I'll have to check the collection. Otherwise, Marvel Unlimited, here I come.
There you go.
Now, the next one, I like this aesthetic. It's got Thanos in here and all the cosmic beings. Actually, I can even see Doctor Doom on the elbow there. And what I'm talking about, listeners, is Akhenaten. So another Egyptian. Let me just pull up this. So he was around circa 1300 BC, and he was chosen by the Celestial Order, something like that. Are you familiar with this gentleman?
No, but out of all these characters, he was the one that piqued my curiosity the most. I loved the look of him. I loved his origin. I thought, this is a cool character. I'd like to. Oh my god! Yeah, and created by Peter David. First appearance, The Incredible Hulk, 457. I can't believe that. Wow! Can't believe I missed this. Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm gonna definitely dive into that. Let me see. Powers, quick powers, dimensional manipulation. I mean, gosh, geez, Justin, all these Egyptian characters are massively powered. Immortal again, invulnerable, matter absorption, omnilingual. Well, that's a massive power, isn't it? That's the most powerful of all. Can communicate with everyone. Size manipulation, that's a weird one to put in there. And probability manipulation, my gosh. So, Akhenaten, what a beast. And now we get something a bit more mummy-like. Oh, sorry, I've given it away. A little more Egyptian-like. It's the Living Mummy. Now, of course. The Living Mummy, getting back into the old horror theme. Yeah, and interestingly enough, this Living Mummy was in the 11th century BC, Nakantu, and he was an African chieftain named Tchombi. So he's changed his name. Anyway, he becomes a mummy. There you go. It appears at 143 issues. Far out. So quite Supernatural Thrillers #5 was the first appearance. So yeah, exactly to say, Justin, I guess with the horror element to Marvel, when they kind of
started kicking off the ground,
Yeah.
the likes of the Mummy, of course, would be quite popular.
Absolutely, yeah. His origin was pretty grisly too. There was a part in there about how his blood was removed and replaced with a chemical solution while he was still conscious.
Oh my gosh, jeez.
Oh, that's
Far out.
yikes.
I love these imaginations,
I know.
these things, imaginings from these writers. It's crazy.
That's great, yeah.
And capping off this bunch of 5, we have Asp. So I'm just going to open up her biography. She doesn't look like she's from the Serpent Society, but okay, she's a mutant. Sorry,
A former member, I think.
she is. Asp was one of the founding members of the Serpent Society. Yeah, she met up with Black Mamba and Diamondback, recruited by Sidewinder. She's a mutant who generates paralyzing bioenergy blasts. So there you go, and she's got a good hefty 144 issues appearances. So, Asp, I remember the name. Looking at the image of her, I can't remember like her costume in that. But yeah, and she turned up in. It says here Major Story Arcs in Alpha Flight, Cable and Deadpool, and even Civil War, Dark Reign, Siege. Oh, and even Avengers versus X-Men. So she's been around quite recently too.
Yeah, she's been around a lot, and I remember too. For a while, she kind of went on the good side of good for a while. It was her and Black Mamba, and there was another character called Impala, I think maybe, and the 3 of them kind of had their own group going that foiled some criminal schemes of some sort. It was a backup in Captain America for a while, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
So she I think she turned over a new leaf. I'm not sure if she's villainous anymore. She may be in the more recent stuff, but I remember she turned over a new leaf for a while.
What are your thoughts on villains becoming good? Do you like that aspect, or?
I do when it makes sense. When it makes sense to the character, I think it's great. But, when it's done just for the sake of it, just because we need it for whatever reason that doesn't fit the story, I don't like that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to throw to you, what do you think then of the Juggernaut?
Becoming good?
Yeah.
Not really a fan of that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I kind of like him bad.
I do too. I think he's... Yeah, it's always possible for people to change.
That's true. Well, that's true. But, yeah, I mean, we've got to be,
I don't know. He always seemed like he was one of the nasty ones that would never change.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I think so too. Because there's a fine line. Like, I think you can. It's a lot more organic, say, with Eddie Brock. I think. Mm-hmm. You know, he always had that code, that really warped code of honor and stuff, and he understandably was very pissed off at Peter Parker and Spider-Man, so you can understand that. But him kind of turning a leaf, I can kind of see. But yeah, Juggernaut, look, I haven't read how he turns and becomes good, but he's so good as a villain. Anyway, that's we're in agreement about that. he should stay a villain. Yeah, absolutely. How about the? There's so many here, Justin.
Oh yeah.
How about? Do you want to? Let's see. Let me see. What's the last one? So listeners, there is up to 34 characters apparently. How about Justin? Free reign. Do you want to grab like just 5 random ones that we have?
Sure. The ones that I looked at that looked the most interesting were Scimitar.
Okay.
Who I had never heard of before.
No. Let me just... what number... Oh, yeah, Scimitar. Yeah, he looks pretty cool.
Yeah. He's a master of bladed weapons.
Oh.
And he's appeared in, looks like, about 23 issues.
Okay,
he was a foe of Iron Fist.
Ooh. Oh, hang on. Scimitar. Because he doesn't look like this, but he's starting to... Oh, maybe not. When was his first appearance?
Iron Fist number 5. He was a Claremont and Byrne creation.
Yes, I have read that. Scimitar. Yep. He did ring a bell. I didn't know he was Egyptian. He doesn't look like that that front, that profile picture, because he had a normal scimitar. He was interesting. Yeah, he was good.
It looks like he's had a few appearances since then and some other stuff. Yeah.
And he's generally a highly skilled swordsman. He along the way he's got 2 energy swords, similar to the Black Knight in the 90s, I guess, with his lightsaber. And he's he's just formidable hand-to-hand combat. And another one, any other ones there, Justin, that piques your interest?
There was another one. I liked the Jamil and there was that pair, Karima and Jamil.
Okay, I see Jamil.
Yeah, Karima. I had never heard of these characters. They were also X-Men characters.
Okay, yeah, which kind of makes sense because the X-Men are more globetrotting, right?
Yeah. But Karima's a young mutant discovered and trained by a master thief in Cairo.
Okay.
And she basically had the power to make illusions and things into reality. She could create psychic constructs and make them solid, yeah. So there was a psychic construct named Jamil that was her companion.
Yeah.
And it looked like, they had a few stories with the X-Men.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the late 90s, early 2000s, but it sounded interesting.
Okay. And then you had also, did you say Karima? Number 23 on this list?
Yeah. Yeah, that was Karima. Yeah, she was the illusion caster.
Oh, she was, sorry.
Jamil
was the construct, was she?
The construct.
Yeah, okay. Right. What? Nice. Yeah. Right. I'm just having a look here as well. I would pick Scarlet Scarab. He looks pretty cool. Looks like a Captain
that was
America.
A cool character.
Yeah. I'm just looking from the picture we've seen there, but I'm pulling up the info now. Seems to be a Captain America villain of some description. Original was Abdul Fowl and is an archaeologist. Only 15 issues, so very modest appearances. First appearance in The Invaders. That's nice. 23. And doesn't seem to have too much on the bio. I'm kind of flicking through like, there's only 2 paragraphs. He died, unfortunately. So he found an artifact in the form of a scarlet scarab called the Ruby Scarab. He had gave him mystical energy, great power. That's basically all it said. But his aesthetic looks pretty cool.
Yeah, and I like this too. He used it to fight for Egypt against the Germans in World War II.
Yeah. Which is, again, a noble cause. Fight for country, that sort of thing. I'm going to drop in there, Justin, just because of the name. You and I know it. Number 30 for Shag. I have no idea what Shag is or means. But alien robot. How cool is that?
God, I laughed so hard at that. Yeah, Shag, yeah.
Shag was a robotic being whose internal mechanisms were contained in the body of the great Sphinx. Wow, there you go. And Shag could manipulate energies which could reconfigure matter and repair any physical damage. Shag is possibly Ramatut time-traveling vehicle. Is the vehicle the Ramatut time-traveling vehicle in Fantastic Four and Doctor Strange issues? So just like a robot, i.e. a transformer, it seems.
Only
masquerading 3
as
issues.
the Sphinx.
Yeah, only the 3 issues, but, what a name. Again, Justin, incidentally, reading the Lost in Time Space, I had to laugh again, juvenile humour. Remember when, what was his name? He was a big bad that actually stole Doctor Doom's time machine, and he had Sunstroke, but he created those other 3 villains, and one of them was called Butt. Yeah, remember? She's like the granite woman. Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So why would you call her Butt? Anyway.
I haven't thought about that in a while.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Yeah.
That was a great one,
Butt.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there was like a salamander, and then there was a cactus guy. But
Dominus. That was that
Dominus.
Villain, right?
Oh, well
Dominus.
done. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
there were millions of them. Like he made millions of those cactus things, and millions of butts, and millions of salamanders. And
yeah. Nah, that was cool. Dominus had ties with. They said, your costume reminds me of such and such. He goes, he was the predecessor I'm the new one, but yeah. Anyway,
it was Lucifer or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Justin, far out. You do know you shizzle. I think it was Lucifer. You're right. Jeez. Yeah. So, any other ones here, Justin? Because I want to actually just give a little time for the DC ones, because I do know that you do have, some interests in them. So, these are, so there are minor characters here. Any last ones here from this?
Not really. Yeah, just Shag was a good one to end that list on.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to. There's another one as well. If we're going to be, if we're going to go down that rabbit hole, Nefri. Just last one, Nefri, number 15. Her costume a little to be desired there. She's got a scarab right on the, on the wahoo. So
yeah, that's quite strategically placed. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like a stray breeze will send all that to the wind.
It looks so flimsy, everything else. Like, almost transparent, like semi-transparent, yeah. But anyway, listen, so there are a whole lot of them. There are 34, apparently, other Marvel characters, plus Earth Force, on top of all the Moon Knight characters. So there are quite a few of them. Let's hope we see many more. We might see more if they get reintroduced in the Moon Knight TV show, dare I say, and even Marvel Legends figures. Let there be a shag legend.
Yeah,
figure.
please.
I would love that.
Let's have a large shag vehicle for other characters to go in and ride around on.
Exactly. So, Justin, I guess there are many actually well-known Egyptian characters, apart from, Shag and all that.
Yeah.
In DC, so if we go beyond Marvel, I know there's one that you love.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, the first one I have to mention is my favorite, Dr. Fate.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the listeners, again, his ties, is he Egyptian or is it tied to mythology?
Well, in a certain sense, his basically Dr. Fate's a sorcerer, but he's kind of like a force that inhabits a mortal body.
Right.
In essence, there's an intelligence called Nabu, which is one of the Lords of Order, and he was I think he was exiled to Earth, or he was imprisoned on Earth or something, in a pyramid. And Kent Nelson's father was an archaeologist and kind of accidentally untombed Nabu and was killed by some tomb gas. So Nabu raised Kent and basically turned him into Dr. Fate. So Nabu, I think there's some history for him as well, in that he was the wizard for Ramesses II instead of where the Sphinx was the one for Marvel. I think Nabu was the one for DC.
Right.
So he has that tie as well to the ancient Egypt lore. That was in an issue of the Spectre, I think, where they talked about that.
Okay. I'd certainly want to know more about Dr. Fate. I mean, you've really sold me on him.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, Moon Knight's my favorite Marvel hero, and Dr. Fate's my favorite DC. And the fact that they're both Egyptian kind of influenced, I want to say that it's coincidence, but it might not have been, because I was pretty heavy into ancient Egypt stuff when I was a kid.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
So that might have had maybe even a subconscious influence on you to pick those characters. Right.
Possibly,
right.
yeah. But yeah, I love Dr. Fate. The thing that sold me first was the costume. I just loved the image. And then when I found out he has such a neat back history and such a neat power set, was kind of what sold me on him beyond that.
Well, friend of the show, Russell, as well, was saying, I think I was chatting with him, and he was saying he could really give Dr. Fate, not Russell, could give Superman a run for his money.
This is true, and I'd agree with Russell on that. Just because of Superman's vulnerability to magic, I think that Dr. Fate could exploit that if he wanted to. But
have they ever tussled?
I want to say there was a 70s story in which Dr. Fate bound him with some magic, like maybe imprisoned him for some reason. I can't remember exactly why or when, but I seem to have that visual in my head that he he bound him with some magic.
Interesting. I'd love to. Maybe I should suggest that for the other podcast I do, The Last Sons of Krypton. A little subtle plug there. Superman podcast. Maybe a team up, or at least maybe a confrontation with Dr. Fate.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. Yeah,
good excuse to bring it up on the show. Mm-hmm. Cool. So Dr. Fate, a big hitter in the DC universe. Just have a couple of others here. Justin, of course, Hawkman, and that includes, I guess, Hawkgirl and all that. Everyone from... Do you know the name of the planet that they're from? Are they from a planet?
Thanagar. Yeah,
Thanagar. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And they're just basically what? Are they just basically durable and strong?
They there's
fly,
there's lots of different origins about the Hawks.
Okay.
But as far as I know, they have a... it's called nth metal, I think, and it basically is an anti-gravity metal that allows them to fly. But they also have weapons made from it, I think, special weapons and things.
So it's not the wings at all? The wings don't make them fly?
No, I think it's just that metal stuff, yeah.
Oh, wow, that probably sounds a really bad question. Sorry?
If my memory's serving me right, I could be wrong. But
so why do they have the wings? Is that...
just for aesthetics, I think.
Really? Oh, wow. Okay.
I can't remember why Thanagar was all into that hawk imagery. I think it might have had something to do with one of their deities going back away.
Okay.
But, yeah.
I must admit as well, and another shout out to a fellow loony, Rick Ball, the Rick Ball special. I think he's piqued my interest a little bit in Hawkman, obviously just because of the ties with Egypt. But and that's actually sounding even more interesting that this nth metal is the thing, and interesting to see.
A really interesting character, And when they brought him back in the early 2000s, he had his own series for a while, which was fantastic, and I'd recommend that one. It's very good.
See, I always associate him with the classic cartoon, right? And so for me, he's like a staple, isn't he, for the JLA and stuff? But
Yeah, he started out in the Justice Society, but he definitely has made his imprint on pretty much everywhere. Yeah.
But he doesn't sound, from the sounds of it, he doesn't sound that as popular in the fact that he hasn't got a regular ongoing series. Like you've only, maybe he's similar to Moon Knight. You could argue, or the likes of Moon Knight.
I could see some parallels between those two, actually. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, right. Nice. And finally, the only other one, unless you have others, Justin, as well, Ragman.
Ragman, I can't remember what his ties to Egypt were, actually.
I thought
it might have been the cloak.
Yeah, I could be wrong. I know that he's very similar to Moon. We covered this, I think, in the previous episode with Russell.
Yeah, you and Russell spoke about him.
I'm not sure whether that was just because the leanings, because he was Jewish as well. I just assumed as well he was Egyptian. I could be totally wrong. Maybe I am. Most likely am. Let me just have a look here. You're right. He might not actually have a tie-in. I just chucked that in there. I thought, no, you're right. I don't think he's got the supernatural element, but that's okay. So scratch that. Sorry, I thought Ragman was.
Oh, that's okay. No,
maybe DC writers can reboot it and make him a.
That's right. Yeah, maybe the cloak was like one of the shawl of the Turin shroud or something.
Because
the Egyptian
it just
equivalent of the Turin shroud.
Yeah, it was just more like the supernatural element, right? So he's just a Jewish superhero. So sorry, that was it. I thought his connection with Moon Knight was the Egyptian as well, but no, sorry. Scratch that.
Okay. That's all right.
Any other ones there, Justin, that you can think off the top of your head?
There was one that I wanted to mention from a very obscure source.
Absolutely.
This is a comic book which I would be amazed if anybody remembered it.
This is why we love having you on, Justin.
There's a random comic book called UN Force, United Nations Force. And this was... I wanted to say 93 or 4, maybe 95. And it was a very short-lived series from a publisher, I think, called Gauntlet.
Okay.
And I just bought it just on a random whim, just because of the cover, I looked at it and I thought, oh, this looks interesting. And it was a team book, and it was essentially all of these characters were from different countries. And as you might imagine, the whole story was basically them all fighting each other. They never really, I don't think they ever fought a single threat besides each other, besides infighting within the team. But it was so great. I don't think that it would fly today because there was a lot of stuff that hasn't aged well. A lot of cultural references, I think, that would probably be frowned upon a little bit, but for the time it was interesting, and I've dug it out a few times over the years and read it, and it's very entertaining. The art's good, and the characters are interesting. But there was an Egyptian hero in that team named Cheops, and he was a scientist who had 3 different helmets. He had a fox helmet, which he could use for telepathy and mind reading. He had a falcon helmet, which he used, of course, for flight. And he had a hippopotamus helmet, which he used for super strength. And
cool.
Of course,
I like
he could
those.
only use... Yeah, it was cool, but he could only use one helmet at a time. So I thought, well, what if he's up in the air and with his falcon helmet, and he really needs to punch a hole through something, but he can't switch helmets in midair.
Exactly. They're not exactly portable, are they?
No.
He's going to have to lug around 3 helmets with him, and they're like, hang on, one sec, let me just change it.
Yeah, let me just change this. Hold on a second. Yeah. So,
that sounds interesting as well.
It was a cool little series. I definitely recommend that to anybody that wants something random and weird to read that's from the past. It's UN Force.
Yeah, UN Force. Most definitely will try to post up something. I always tend to post things after we do the recordings, but anyway, they're good for discussion. We'll post up something to do with Egyptian characters, and hopefully I can track down some images of Cheops from UN Force.
I think I found one earlier. I can send that to you. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic, great. And I'll post that up in our group and on the page, and we can have a good old discussion with some loonies about, what is your favourite Egyptian character or Egyptian mythological character from Marvel and or beyond. I think it'll be a very interesting discussion. Justin, why don't we just take a quick break, and when we come back, we're just going to wrap up our idle chat with a couple of bits of feedback. But we'll see you soon, loonies, after this short message.
You belong to the very Marvel.
Anyone hear us?
This is Trey Lawson.
And I'm James Hickson.
Anyone can hear this broadcast. We need your help.
We've been kidnapped and imprisoned in a tomb by this creepy old undertaker named Mr. Gravely.
And he's forcing us to review his collection of Marvel horror comics. Stuff like Tomb of Dracula,
Werewolf by Night,
Man-Thing,
Ghost Rider,
and so much more.
Forcing us to record these reviews as a podcast called The Tomb of Ideas.
If you can hear this, please contact our families. Call the authorities. Anyone. Tell them we can be found at...
Now, boys. Let's not give too much away. You can find James and Trey every other Wednesday at the Tomb of Ideas, a Marvel horror podcast. A proud member of the Cinepunks podcast group. See you there, Tomb Believers.
The Merry Marvel Marching Society.
Hello, this is Russell from
Tombs of Evil.
and you're listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast.
Yes, welcome back, loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. We are wrapping up our fantastic discussion on, this always interests me, Justin, the Egyptian characters or the Egyptian mythological aspects in the Marvel Universe and beyond. So I think we've covered a fair few of them. But yeah, Justin, it's fantastic. Dr. Fate, of course, a big one. Interesting to know some of the villains as well. The Living Monolith, I've got to try and find out more of. I love that the premise of the Sphinx as well.
Yeah. I think you'd love that New Warriors story that we were talking about. Yeah.
I'm certainly I love the New Warriors, that kind of classic New Warriors. So certainly going to check it out. Before we head off, though, Justin, we've got a couple of bits of feedback from previous episodes. Have you got the prompt sheet up and running there on your end?
I do. Yes, I
Excellent.
do. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, why don't we go? I'll take the first one. I'll give you the nice long one there.
Okay, sure.
From CMK. But first off, so this is based off our last Idle Chat, which was all about non-Marvel team-ups. So which character would you like to see team up with Moon Knight, not from the Marvel Universe? That was our episode 206, and we got returning comments from Car Eternal. Thank you so much, Car Eternal. And they say, I'd love to see what a Moon Knight and Badger crossover team up could give us.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to ask you about this one, Justin. Badger is an indie superhero with DID that regularly fights wizards, pollution. He once attacked a man for littering, and Putin. So, Justin, it sounds like you know of the Badger. It sounds like a very interesting character. Who and where and what?
The Badger's from First, I believe, is the publishing house.
Okay.
That was from the 80s, and I first encountered Badger by reading Nexus. Nexus is a big favorite of mine.
Right.
By Mike Barron and Steve Rude, and I just love the character of Badger's so great.
So cool.
And yeah, that would be a fantastic team up. I would love to see that. Those two together. It would be very, very entertaining. There would never be a dull moment.
I'm going to have to check it out again. Like, this is what I love. Having the likes of you on as well, Justin, but getting these bits of feedback from the loonies out there as well. It's all about learning a bit more about what's out there, and yeah, I just absolutely love it. So thank you, Car Eternal, for that.
Yeah.
And finally, we've got the last bit of feedback.
Sure, from CMK7, who writes, great episode and great picks, guys. Man, you guys are really taking me back. The Grendel and the Mask. OMG. I'd throw the Crow in there as well. That's a good pick, too.
Yes, very good.
Also, is it safe to say that Spawn and Ragman are ripoffs? Borrow a lot from Moon Knight, LOL. At least that's what I thought when they first came on the scene, although I'm fans of both and have their number ones, as well as the Mask number one, way before the movie.
Wow, impressive.
Another one I'd throw in there is Vigilante from DC, basically a Punisher copy with some differences, and another favorite of mine. I would agree with that. Vigilante would be a great team up for Moon Knight as well.
Is that character still up and around in DC?
No, well, probably not the version that CMK is talking of, because I think that one's deceased still. But there have been a few different vigilantes over the years. I think there's a new one now in DC currently. But, yeah, that would make for a great team up for old Mooney.
Yeah, I mean, he's always done well with the Punisher, teamed up with Punisher. So to have someone kind of like the Punisher, I can see certainly work. What are your thoughts? Thanks again. Sorry, CMK7, boop. But also as well, your thoughts, Justin, on Spawn and Ragman borrowing from Moon Knight. What do you reckon?
I would kind of agree with that a little bit, at least in the image with the flowing capes and things. Yeah. Yeah, I was never the biggest Spawn fan, but I always did like Ragman. I always liked Ragman.
Oh, well, I mean, I've only become familiar with Ragman recently. Spawn is interesting because, I rode that wave when Image started and Spawn came out and collecting all those. It is interesting, actually, to take a step back and go, so what was McFarlane influenced by? Because he certainly isn't anything like Spidey, which was a big Todd McFarlane thing. I guess Batman. And the likes of Moon Knight, I guess, with the flowing cape. But he even influenced Marvel in the to some capacity. Justin, I don't know if you remember Night Watch. Do you remember that character?
Oh, I do remember Night Watch. Yes.
Literally just Spawn.
Basically, yeah.
It was very funny.
I have a few issues of Night Watch. I remember that one. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That was a direct rip-off. And I think they had to change the costume too, I think, right after the first issue.
Because too much.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Completely retooled it.
Well,
and plus the Spawn too does have some other similarities with the mercenary background.
Oh yeah,
with the
true.
Soldier of Fortune
True.
history with Moon Knight and with the whole redemption ideal. So
and a deal with
possible.
the devil.
Yeah,
right.
Like exactly.
/KHONSHU. Yeah, true.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, CMK, I think you're onto something there. So
I agree with that.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much, guys, for your comments. They're always fun. And listeners, if you want to drop comments too as well, please feel free. Like these were on past episodes, so we love reading them out as well and just reflecting on what we discussed before. So drop in your thoughts for Egyptian superheroes. That'd be really cool. And as I said, I'll put something up in the group and on the page to maybe generate some discussion. So Justin, that wraps up our idle chat. Thank you so much for
thank you for having
on.
Me back. Yeah, it was great.
And if you do have some space in the schedule, would you be able to jump in a bit later in the week for another episode?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I'd love to.
Excellent, fantastic. That's so cool. So Justin and I, we will reconvene a few days from now, of course, as is always the way, and we'll be looking at next phase. It is a first quarter. So we haven't had a first quarter moon in a while, and that means it will be KHONSHU's Relics. So what Justin and I will be doing will be looking at what I've titled Moon Knight Collected. And I guess we're just going to openly discuss, Justin, Moon Knight in, I guess, trade form, collected format. Maybe things we want to see as well. And
some speculation for the future. Yeah,
exactly. Some speculation for the future. And for those that are chasing things, we might give a rundown of what is currently out there. Not necessarily available, but if you do your hunting, you might find that white whale of yours. Alrighty, loonies, we'll catch you a bit later in the week. Have a good one.
Take care.
Loonies, you can contact us through various social platforms. You can drop us a line on email at itkmoonnight@gmail.com. We have a Facebook page, facebook.com/itkmoonnight, and a Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/itkmoonnight. We are on Twitter. Our handle is at itkmoonnight, and we're on Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube. Just search for Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. We're also on Discord. Just search for the server Into the Night with a K. Please leave an iTunes rating or review if you can. It helps us reach other loonies out there too. Also, if you have any feedback, we also look to improve ourselves and the show. Finally, we're on all good podcast catches: Apple Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, also on Podcoin. Please check us out and share episodes with your friends.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.